What is up, and welcome to a very special episode of Ask DLF. I am at Calvin and Hobby. You can find me there on Twitter, and I'm joined. We'll get to the very special guest here in just a second, but as always, with Tyler, FF Creator. You find him there and everywhere, answering tons of questions, which we're here to do today again. Tyler, are you excited?
Yes, very, very, very excited. I know that everything is starting to kick up. I noticed Scott Fishbowl is kind of things are in the Twitter community are really starting to become more active. So yeah, no, I'm very excited.
And of course, if you're going to ask DLF, I mean, who else would you rather be able to ask than Mr. Ryan Mac 23? Ryan, how are you today?
Doing well. Glad to be on here with you guys. Finally, long overdue.
Yeah. It's been a while, but we're definitely excited to have you, excited to dig into some questions. And we're excited that everybody here in the chat is here as well. I've said many times, this is the best chat in all of YouTube history. I'm excited that everybody here is joining us. I see a lot of our regulars in there already answering questions, thinking about things. It's Ask DLF. That means you ask the questions and then we're going to react to it. There's lots to talk about, but we're going to talk about what you want us to talk about today. It's Taco Tuesday if you're joining us here in the States,
Waffle
or for Blake
Wednesday.
And our friends. We're huge in Australia. I don't know if you know that, Ryan, but we're huge in Australia. It's Waffle Wednesday there. So, yeah,
that sounds
excited
pretty good
to get started. And let's go ahead and jump in with the legend, Henry Muto. He is a legend. Ryan, he's in 120-something leagues. He's taken down a couple
I'm familiar. I am familiar with him for sure. And yeah, he is a legend.
He's a legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Do what he's telling you to do.
If you've been around, like I have, if you're an old guy like me, we run in the same circles. We know these names. I believe he used to be used to frequent football guys forums just like I did. I'm definitely familiar.
Yep, and he's telling everybody to smash that like button. So if you want to be a legend like Henry, do like he's doing and smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, Addison, and all the great content creators.
Addison will get his wings.
Yeah, that's right. Addison loves it when he's smart wherever he is, no matter what he's doing, no matter what time it is.
He'll know.
Every single time somebody hits the like button, he knows it. So yeah, do what Henry's telling you to do here. And Henry did it again. He joined another FFPC Dynasty League, collected 6 first, 2 seconds again. There's 4 players this time in the top 12 rounds: Jefferson, Devonta, Hockenson, and Herbert. If you were grading this on a scale of productive struggle 1 to 10, what would you say, Ryan?
10, certainly. Definitely a 10. I mean, I guess maybe the only question is Javonte Williams, in the true productive struggle, you want to wait on running backs, but looking at that 23 class, if you've got this type of build, you might struggle in 2022, but if that class is as good as we think it is, you'll be ready for the playoffs and maybe even for a title next year. So yeah, I love it.
Very good. He said taking the QB was probably a mistake, but it was pick 407, and no one would trade their first for it. All the good young wide receivers were mostly gone, so ended up with Herbert at 407. So not terrible.
1 QB, I guess.
Must be.
Yeah, it's really early, but can't be perfect.
Compared drafts, the last one I did had 3 players in the first 15 rounds: Pitts, Waddle, Metcalf, and the same 6 first. Yeah, that's pretty good too.
That draft. That was interesting. We went through all the trades on that draft.
Yep. First question, if you're watching this, if you are watching on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitter, the best place is right here on YouTube to ask these questions, just like Sean did right here. 12-team Superflex, start 10 PPR, Jerry, Judy, Sky Moore, late 23 first, 4, Terry McLaurin, and Chris Godwin. Which side would you want? How about you, Tyler?
Go for the 23 first side. I mean, if you ever have to think about it, it's the 23 first side, right? I mean, we know that those are going to increase in value. We know McLaurin. I mean, he's playing with Carson failure. We don't want that. I mean, we don't want failure. That doesn't sound so good. And then Godwin is injured. I don't know when he's going to come back. We don't know. I don't really like Jerry Judy, but I'll take this side with the 23 first.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, that's the side I want as well. I mean, you can look at ADP or rankings or whatever you want. And yeah, Godwin and McLaurin are probably ahead of Judy and Sky Moore at this point. But I think those two pairs are going in two different directions. We could definitely look ahead a year from now or even a few months from now, and Judy and Sky Moore are the ones trending up. McLaurin, Godwin, those are the guys that are 26, close to 27 years old. Certainly not done yet, but going to be tough for them to gain a ton of value moving forward. And that pick is enough to do it for me. I'll go with the Judy side here.
Also,
and honestly, even on the Godwin side, like if he takes as long as it sounds like he might take to get back on the field, that late first could turn into a mid first really quickly.
It's not even that. The interesting thing to me is I just looked at, so I did the thing where I put the DLF ADP into my own spreadsheet yesterday, the new July data. So I did that. And I noticed that in the 1 QB ADP, Terry McLaurin is 8 overall spots ahead of Chris Godwin, which makes no sense to me. None. Terry McLaurin has never done anything compared to what Chris Godwin has offered in fantasy. Never. Terry McLaurin's never even been top 15. I mean, his best season ever in points per game was 18th or 19th overall, was maybe 20th. Is not very good. He doesn't have a good quarterback situation. I mean, we know Godwin might not have Brady after this year, but he has Brady now. Next year could be better. There's no guarantee Washington's going to fix anything. So I don't understand that. I have Chris Godwin actually 21 overall spots ahead of Terry McLaurin. So I don't agree with that valuation at all. I just thought that was actually something very interesting. I found there were quite a few interesting things in this new July data, but that was one of the things on the top of my list where I didn't get it. I don't understand. I still don't. I don't know what people are short-sighted. It's really what it is. It's that Godwin's not going to play maybe for the first few weeks, and they're seeing that, they're overvaluing that. But if you look at the production history, the age, the future, it's very obvious that Godwin should be worth significantly more.
Yeah, so Godwin's actually younger than Terry McLaurin,
Yeah.
and if I remember correctly, they were a draft class apart. But because McLaurin came in later, we kind of assume that he's the younger guy.
They're two apart, actually. They're two apart. Godwin's 2017 and McLaurin's 2019. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you're right. It's McLaurin is, I believe, September 95 and Godwin's February 96, I think.
Oh, we need a fact checker. Somebody fact check.
Fact checker.
Tyler's actually really good at that. He enters in a lot of those. We were talking pre-show about entering in spreadsheets. He knows all about entering.
I don't touch the ages. I don't enter them anywhere. I just look them up a lot.
There you go. It looks like there was maybe like a draft where Godwin went 50th. Maybe that pulled him down a little bit, but I do think maybe the extension from Terry and
though. That's crazy. I don't really understand. I mean, I wrote about him in a recent article, so I probably won't do it again, but he has a really good, whenever he's on the field, he's good. McLaurin has had large stretches of being bad.
Absolutely. So B Salzburg comes in here, 12 team, Superflex, half PPR, start 9. AJ Dillon or Darnell Mooney. Ryan, start with you this time.
I'm just not quite sold on Darnell Mooney, and I'm certainly not sold on the Bears offense. So I want AJ Dillon here. The half PPR is even more of a reason to go with the running back.
Tyler?
Yeah, I'll go with Ryan against the ADP, which has Mooney higher. But I'll go with Ryan and go with AJ Dillon. I think AJ Dillon has a lot more upside. Darnell Mooney is what he is.
Yeah, I agree. What do you have, like 29 targets in those last 2 games and bump that target number up for the season?
Yeah, but you think he's going to have more than 140? Forget the last 2 games, but just generally, you think he's going to have more than 140? Probably not. I mean, that just seems like the kind of player he is. It's not his fault or success, whatever you want to call it, that the Bears are incompetent. They failed to put any weapons around Justin Fields. I don't think that just because they failed to put weapons around Justin Fields means that Darnell Mooney is going to get 170 targets. It's whatever Deontay Johnson has that allows him to do that. Darnell Mooney does not have that.
They went out and got N'Keal Harry. Come on, Tyler. That wasn't good enough for you?
Oh, they got N'Keal Harry. I recorded a video about that, and I was like, yes, here's the impact. And then that was it. The video was over. There was no more to that video.
He chimes back in, double dipping here. B. Salzburg is either Kareem Hunt or Melvin Gordon worth a 23 second in a 12-team Superflex, half PPR, start 9 league. No, Ryan?
No. I think I would just aim lower. I would spend a lower pick and aim a little bit lower, but maybe get the same production. Maybe buy buy Darrell Williams or somebody like that for a third or maybe even less, and probably get about the same as you're going to get from Gordon or Kareem Hunt.
I do like Darrell Williams a lot, but I would say with Leonard Fournette's weight issues, why don't you just try it? I've already seen it happen once. Try sending the 23 for Leonard Fournette instead. Maybe a miracle will occur. If you really want to do this, you want to get a running back. I think Leonard Fournette, we know, has top 10 upside this year. These two, they definitely don't.
I did see somebody reach out to me, James Conner, and they traded James Conner for Leonard Fournette after that news.
Oh, I know who that is. They asked me the same question.
Nice. What were you saying, Ryan? Sorry.
I was just going to say we might not be far off from seeing Zeke for a second.
I'd rather have Fournette over Zeke. Zeke is cooked. He looks so bad. I don't want to hear about. There's always an excuse. He always has a zillion excuses. But if you look over the last 3 years, he's become worse and worse every year. I think that tells me that he's going to continue to get worse, not better. Whereas Fournette last year was, I think, his best year, really, as a fantasy asset and almost as an NFL running back. He was really good. So I don't know. I don't see the decline with Fournette, where Zeke, I think, is just done.
Well, I mean, the thing with Fournette is the value dropped way too far, way too quickly at the end of his Jacksonville tenure. And you look at all those 2017 backs from that class, and they're all late 26, early 27 years old. And there's a big gap between guys like Alvin Kamara and Leonard Fournette that there really shouldn't be, because, outside of a few weeks span towards the end of his time in Jacksonville, Fournette's been, maybe not as good as those guys. I mean, Kamara was obviously elite, but I think Fournette's undervalued right now. The weight issue is going to make him even more undervalued, probably. So I do like Fournette as a trade target, draft target, whatever you want to think about there, depending on your league.
That whole thing just strikes me as like mid-July news. Like I
definitely
don't.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I kind of like it's going to be a nothing burger. We're not even going to remember it, and I
definitely don't want Zeke though. I mean, for the year, like I do. So I rank redraft, and I have Fournette at 10 and Zeke at 20. So I think you're getting very different production out of Fournette and Zeke this year.
Good question here from Eric. One thing that you all learned today, it can be about anything. And go. Anything come to mind for either of you?
Today was a very quiet day for me. I went to the dentist. I didn't do much else.
Yeah, that's a good question, but I
don't
know if I learned anything.
I'm trying to think of what did I learn today.
I should have a better answer.
I will say I'll cheat because it's yesterday, but I'll cheat. I learned something yesterday. I always kind of knew this, but I didn't really realize this until yesterday. So yesterday on my YouTube channel, I did a mock draft. And I guess I'd always known this, but when I was doing the mock draft, I realized, and I've heard you talk about this, Ryan, before. I was taking players, and I realized at some points, a couple points during the draft, my rankings say this, but I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do that. Yeah. I don't want to do that. There's a problem here. Like so I just changed my rankings while I was live on the show. I was like, well, I don't like that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to change it. So what I learned from that is that doing mock drafts, even you don't have to keep, obviously you don't have to keep the roster, whatever, but take them seriously. And then if you do the mock drafts, that'll help you. That's the best way to adjust your dynasty rankings over time. You can do the same for redraft as well. Doing redraft mock drafts, that'll help you adjust your redraft rankings. It's the same principle, but just in general. Maybe I should have done more mock drafts for Scott Fishbowl, but that was a slow draft, so I had more time to think about each pick. It's not as big of a deal. When you're really it's another thing. When you're really under the pressure, like a 30-second clock, you really figure out, do you want player X or player Y? You can't hide behind a trade. You can't hide behind another thing. So I do actually think it has a lot of utility especially for content creators, but even just for your general dynasty player to kind of, adjust your ranks. And I suggest that most people who are serious about dynasty, I did this before I started creating content, actually create your own ranks. I think it's a good exercise. It'll help you become a better player. Don't rely on somebody else. Just create your own, and then, we'll see how it'll help you become better. But doing mock drafts is how you kind of hone in on that. And then, of course, you can do the ones at DLF. They're every month, and I would suggest that.
So I have a subscription to Audible where I listen to Audible.com is you get audiobooks that you like one every
okay.
month. And so I try to get
I was
like
thinking of the other
nonfiction-
Audible, like the football Audible.
No. I try to get a nonfiction book that I read and kind of try to grow. Like as Eric's saying here, try to learn something every day. That is, I think, an important thing about being a person that gets smarter and gets better every day. So I'm reading a book called Emotional Intelligence, which is a classic book about EQ. And they studied preschoolers about like they would leave 2 jelly beans or something like that in a room, and they were
I know this experiment.
they would leave 1, and they would say you can have 1 like now, or you can, if you wait till I get back in the room, you can have 2. And they studied these kids all the way through high school, and the more successful ones were the ones that waited for the 2, the ones that like they were more impulsive, they were more like. It's really interesting when you think about that, like impulse and impulse control. And so that's probably not exactly what you were looking for. Although Eric is always looking for something a little bit extra than just fantasy football. So maybe that is more what Eric would want. So
yeah, that's interesting.
That's good stuff.
I think I learned, well, it came to me, unfortunately. I learned how expensive golf pull carts are. Are you guys golfers at all?
Mm-hmm.
I golfed once.
Yeah.
I golfed once in my life. I hit the ball 20 feet backwards and knocked out a car window. Never again.
Wow.
One time.
Yeah,
ever.
You've had enough.
Yes. Enough of that.
I'm not really a golfer either. I play maybe a couple times a year at most, but my son, 15-year-old, is getting into it big time. Like he has the fever, and he went out and played with friends yesterday. He comes home and says, they all have a pull cart. I'm carrying my bag. I need a pull cart. And thinking, okay, that's, that seems pretty cheap. We can do that. I'm thinking maybe it's $50 or something. Oh no, $300.
Oh,
for a golf pull cart
to do what? It like you
put your bag on it, and it carries.
That costs $300.
Wow.
I'm certainly not paying that.
Wow. I learned that today.
I'm not happy about
everybody
it.
else knows. Yep. Eric's on baby duty, so he says longer the show, the better. We're going to try to keep it to our more typical hour and a half.
It won't be 3 hours. I was tired for 2 days after that last week, Sean.
Order 66, 12 team, super flex, 2-point tight end premium. Start 12, Mark Andrews and Javonte Williams, or Trey Lance and George Kittle. What do you guys think?
Well,
super flex. I want the quarterback. Trey Lance for me, the 49ers side here.
I feel all right.
Tyler's on the other side. I can.
Yeah, I am. But that's. I mean, my rankings say to go to the other side. Actually, by a lot. I'm kind of surprised I don't have this as particularly close. In this format, I would have Andrews above Lance and Javonte above Kittle. So, I'll go with the other side. I do understand wanting the quarterback, and it would be difficult if Lance were my only good quarterback to make this trade. But this is also why I really want to get one of those top quarterbacks in Superflex and then just not trade them. I do start Superflex off with 6 quarterbacks. I think like most people do at this point, and I really would like one of those first 6, and then I don't have to deal with this.
I'm all in on Trey Lance, so I want that side. All in.
It's funny, I have him higher than his ADP, or the last one I saw anyway.
Eric wants the Andrews side. Brett Coatney, he jumps in. Kenny Pickett or Daniel Jones? Scraping the bottom of the barrel here, Ryan. Which one of these guys do you want?
I heard your Kenny Pickett segment.
That was a deep sigh.
You and Matt were talking about Kenny Pickett, right? Were you talking about quarterback battles on Locked On?
Yes, yeah. Matt Williamson, of course, covers the Steelers in all of his spare time. I mean, he doesn't think Pickett sees the field this year. Yeah, he has some Trubisky. He's buying into Trubisky. He, of course, sees the Steelers as at least somewhat of a contender, maybe not a full-on contender, but not a team that's going to turn it over to the rookie necessarily halfway through the season, which I agree with. I agree with him on that one. I mean, of course, we're not excited about either of these guys. We have seen it from Daniel Jones. We've seen some big time performances and some big upside, definitely surrounded with tons of talent. And here I'm really more believing in the coaching staff and the history. So I'll go with Daniel Jones bouncing back.
Interesting with Brian Dable, and it's some potentially good news there for him. And I don't know, it'd be pretty surprising for Kenny Pickett not to see the field. Is it outside of Jordan Love? Have we seen very many first round quarterbacks not see the field in year one?
There've been a few. Paxton Lynch.
Yeah,
Paxton Lynch.
It's been a while. It's definitely become more rare. I mean, we probably see Pickett at some point. I mean, Mahomes started one game, Trey Lance started one game. So, yeah.
Those guys have better quarterbacks in front of them than Mitch Trubisky, though, right? Like, I kind of don't know. I don't know. If Matt's sold on Mitch Trubisky, maybe he could convince me, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's no convincing me because it's not Daniel Jones. It's never Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones sucks. He's so bad. They declined the 5th-year option. We know that they declined it. They don't want him. This is a new coaching staff that doesn't want him. They felt stuck with him. I felt like the ownership forced them to stick with Daniel Jones for this last year of his rookie contract. They didn't allow them to make additional moves. I think we know that the Giants are not, they do not want it. So Daniel Jones will be a backup in 2023. So just take Pickett for the value insulation.
Eric's excited that we have a Hollywood Brown advocate. Are you a Hollywood Brown advocate, Ryan?
You?
I've become one. I didn't used to be one. In fact, I mean,
so
he was
interesting.
Yeah, he was a player that I avoided.
You're in the same boat as me.
Yeah, I
someone who
kind
wasn't
of avoided early on, and it started to come around. Certainly last year, I was impressed with his play, and then it all kind of fell apart with the Lamar injury. And I mean, I love the move to Arizona.
So much.
All the things that have been talked about there, we don't have to repeat them, but the connection with Kyler Murray is obvious. Nuke being out the first 6 weeks. I think Hollywood is way undervalued right now.
He's not, though. Like his ADP, he was last month when his ADP was in the 50s, but now his ADP is 39. How much more room does he have to grow?
I did sell him for a 23 first.
I think he's got some room.
I mean, he's actually gotten to the point where now I'm below his ADP. So people, I guess, were maybe listening to some of I don't know if they were listening to some of the things I said, but I was very adamant over the last couple of months that his ADP was way too low. But now it seems very reasonable. I don't know how much higher.
I mean, he's still wide receiver 18. Like I think he could be a wide receiver 1, a top 12 guy this time next year. He's only 25 years old, just turned 25. Like we've seen those big drops, or I'm sorry, those big jumps from. I mean, everybody's looking for the next Cooper Kupp, right? I mean, Cooper Kupp was outside of the top 30 this time last year, and now is the top 3, 4, or 5 wide receiver wherever he is this month. Like, why couldn't that be Hollywood Brown? He's got draft pedigree. He's got the offense that we love right now. And looking at the names above him, I mean, Terry McLaurin, you already trashed him. Tyler is
I have
right above
McLaurin
him.
Lower.
Yeah, Drake London, Deontay Johnson. I like Deontay Johnson, but there's questions about his future as well. I could easily see Hollywood as a top 10 or 12 wide receiver soon.
Yeah, he just doesn't strike me. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy. Like, he really shouldn't have like massive volume. I guess he could get it done on the efficiency, but a player like that, there are players like that who've risen into the top 12, but most of the time the players in the top 12 are the alpha types, like the real alpha types, your Jamar Chase type kind of player. And AJ Brown. And I don't know if Hollywood Brown has much room to grow from 18. I liked it better when he was 26, when he was wide receiver 26, because I do think that he should be valued around where he is, or more or less. But again, there's something about him that I just feel caps his ceiling a little bit. Maybe it's that he's a little small. I mean,
we need some rumors about him going to be a Twitch streamer or something again. That was a good time to buy him whenever that came up.
Gosh.
Nicholas chimed in.
wild
What's up,
off-season
DLF?
stuff.
Just got our 12th guy today for our Superflex Dynasty startup. Doing my first slow draft August 1st. It's Superflex 3 wide receivers, 3rd round reversal. Slow draft, 12-hour clock. Any advice? That's a bit of a vague question there, Ryan, but you are the guy to answer this one right here. What do you think?
Well, I mean, Superflex, it's quarterback early and often. I want at least 2 quarterbacks in my first 3 picks for sure. The 3rd round reversal, I mean, we don't know where our guy Nicholas is picking, so tough to give exact names. But the guys I really like to target in that 2nd, 3rd round range, and maybe they fall even further depending on kind of how active and engaged your league mates are. But those 2nd-year guys, I mean, we already talked about Lawrence, you're getting a discount. Justin Fields, you're getting a discount for good reason. Those are guys you can take a chance on 2nd, 3rd, maybe even later than that.
Tyler?
For me, it's very simple. If you have a top 6 pick, just keep it, move around maybe a little bit. If you have 1, I'm fine trading down to 3, trading down from Allen to Herbert. I'm fine doing that because I've noticed the returns on that are very high. But if you have a top, much more than the difference to me. But if you have a top 6 pick and you have a chance to get one of the 6 quarterbacks, which, are obviously Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Kyler, Lamar, or Burrow, I'd take them. If you're 7, 8, or 9, I would hold on to the pick until it gets to you because I have seen Kyler and Lamar fall. For some reason, people don't like them. I don't really know why. They're about to get massive contract extensions. Maybe that's why they haven't gotten them yet, but they're going to. If you have 7, 8, or 9, I'd hold on to it and see if one of them falls. If they don't, I would trade down because I do not want to make, similar to the 1 QB after the top 3, I don't really like the value of 4 through 15, really. I don't want to make any of those picks. So I would look to trade down, accumulate more picks kind of in the 2nd and 3rd, like Ryan was saying, because I like a lot of the players in there. But again, if I have that top pick and I have the opportunity to get a 1 QB stud QB early, I would do that. And then for me, I'm less on getting the 2nd QB in the 2nd or 3rd. There's a lot of players in there I don't like. Some that I do, but others that I don't. So I'm often fine. Like a lot of my teams would have, I'll give you an example. The draft I did yesterday, it had Herbert. I picked Herbert in the 1st, Carr in the 4th, and Tua in the 5th. So that was how I had. And then I had Daniel Jones later, I think in the 12th as a QB4. So that was my QB strategy. And that was from the 4 slot. Just give you an idea of a quarterback room I constructed yesterday. So I'm comfortable with that. But I don't, the one thing I would say don't punt quarterback. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't punt quarterback. I know it looks good. Like you draft like a bunch of running backs and wide receivers, your team looks good, but it's so hard after the startup to then trade for a quarterback. That is very difficult. That's how you get into a very dangerous ground. So you don't want to do that. This is one thing I would say don't do. It's fade quarterback in Superflex. That'll be a big mistake.
And don't draft for your starting lineup. Draft for value. Right? Draft the best player.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, though, I do not find success in drafting 5 quarterbacks or 6 or 7. That doesn't work for me. I don't like that strategy at all. The same way that I wouldn't draft 7. There comes a point at which I want to pull out of that at any position. I'm not going to draft 4 tight ends either in the early rounds. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to draft all wide receiver. Like you want to, I generally say take value, but there's a point at which I start wanting to get some other positions on my team.
Alex has a team where he feels like he is rebuilding and wants to know about Travis Etienne. So if you have Etienne, are you looking to trade now or you wait for a sell window? Just general strategy, and I'll just pull up the trade finder. So I'm going to ask you a few general strategy on that though first.
Go to the trade finder, I think, maybe, because I think Etienne is someone whose value varies wildly from one league to another. Maybe just go to the trade finder.
Yeah, I mean, Etienne seems to be gaining value, over the past couple months for whatever reason. I mean, there's basically been no news. The situation hasn't really changed. He's just one of those players in June and July that has been trending up. I mean, I do like the situation. He's on the cusp now, and looking at our ADP of being an RB1.
I know.
Although, of course, he's done, he's done nothing. I mean, I like the player, but yeah, he's been gaining value. So now might be the time before he shows us that he's not fully healed from that injury. And I mean, obviously, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but I mean, what happens if next week, and it could be as early as next week, we get the report that his foot is still not right and he's going to sit out camp. Now that value changes very quickly, just with that one report. So this is certainly not your last chance to sell or anything like that if you want to move him, but with the value going up, I think now's a good time.
Yeah, that's what I would want to do for sure. And looking at some of these values, so you got ETN. Here's just a this is probably a 2 copy. But it says 2014, but probably a 2 copy 12 team. I is what I would guess. Think about it like a 12 team. Travis Etienne and Pat Freiermuth for Derrick Henry, Jerry Judy, and Michael Pittman.
Oh, of Derrick Henry.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's insane.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Here's Etienne for a 23 first and 5th. It's a super flex.
I feel
I think I'd want the first.
I probably would if I had to choose.
This is let's see. This is a 1 QB, but Travis Etienne and Austin Hooper for Marquise Brown, who we talked about, and the 104.
Well, Marquise Brown, the 104.
Yeah.
That's unreasonable. Yeah.
His value definitely seems to have gotten to the point where you can get that kind of return at this point. And if you can, then you should take that. If you're getting less than that, I think maybe you could hang on, but plan on holding on maybe for the full season. Don't get panicky and try to sell him if he turns out to like he's looking like he's more like Nyheim Hines this year as opposed to what we think he could be. Then don't panic and sell at that point. Don't do that. Eric chimes in, Nicholas, take good players. Yeah, that's pretty good advice for somebody doing a Dynasty League.
That's often my advice.
Joseph needs a third running back. He's got Swift and Barkley. Who would you target?
We have a problem here. But there's a problem here. There's a problem here. You need to do something else before you can get a third running back. We have very overvalued Saquon Barkley. Somehow, I don't understand this one. It's now up to 18 in ADP. He's going to come out. I can tell you what's going to happen. He's going to come out on this putrid offense and look terrible. And then 18 is going to become close to below where I have him. It's going to be 50 very quickly. So what you're going to want to do before you get a third running back is eliminate Saquon Barkley from your dynasty roster. Just eliminate him because he is a big problem. He hasn't done anything. You started him 8 times last year. 8 times you started him, and he didn't offer anything more than Devontae Booker offered, really. So you 8 times started, finished at running back 29. It was 30 in points per game. It was very bad. So we'll get him out of your team. And then when you get rid of him, I would suggest going after some of the guys we talked about earlier. You could go after Fournette if people are worried about him. You could get someone. People don't like David Montgomery for whatever reason. He'll come at a much cheaper price. So you could trade Barkley for Montgomery plus. I'm sure I would love whatever return I could get for that. But yeah, any number of those things. But just eliminate the Saquon Barkley problem from your team, and that'll be a good first step. And then move on to the next step.
Ryan,
I'm not going to touch that one.
No. Well, no, we have to talk about Juju next. Juju will be next. That one will be good.
You've got a couple of chips there with the 2 mid first. I don't want Kenneth Walker. If you're looking for a running back, I'm not taking Kenneth Walker with either of those picks. So instead, you're looking to trade one or both of those picks for a running back. And you've got a ton of options. I mean, we just mentioned ETN. Someone asked me today, their trade was 1.06 for Travis Etienne, which I think is a smash. Absolutely, as quickly as you could do that. So
I think I was asked the same question because I was asked that today also. 106 for Etienne.
Yeah.
And I said Etienne as well.
Yeah. So just looking at ADP, I mean, really anybody from probably running back 11 to running back I don't know, you could go all the way down to 24. Almost all of those would be targets for one of those picks. I mean, I think Aaron Jones is a great target right now. Derrick Henry is a nice trade target. Might have to do both of those picks for Derrick Henry potentially. It just depends on how close you are to contending. Swift and Barkley is a solid start. If the rest of your team doesn't feel like a strong contender, then I wouldn't necessarily be trading for a running back anyway.
Right. It always depends on who you have.
Yeah, part of it is like, let's not stress about a third running back in mid-July at this point. Like, I think, you don't have to set a lineup for a little bit here. You can take a little bit of time. And
you also never know.
Make sure you're looking for value. Don't panic and trade these for something that you quote unquote need. Make sure you're getting good value.
Last year in July, you could have had Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, and Travis Etienne. You thought you had a great young running back core. And then, a month from now, you would have had no running backs. So trading for running backs now is always risky because it just seems like every training camp and preseason, there's a running back bloodbath. And it feels like it gets worse every year. I don't know if you two feel that way, but doesn't it feel like it's worse and worse every year? There's more and more injuries every year. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like I feel that way.
Ryan, would you trade 105 for Josh Jacobs?
No.
108?
I wouldn't trade 108 for Josh Jacobs.
Really? Okay.
No.
105.
108's close to me. It's not even a question of, who am I getting at 108? Maybe I'm getting Sky Moore or something like that. It's not even a question of the rookie I can get at 108 versus Josh Jacobs. It's all of the other potential players or deals that I could get for 108. Like maybe you can get that 23 first for 108. I would obviously much rather have a 23 first versus Josh Jacobs. Maybe you can get, you can buy low on a wide receiver. Maybe you can get Juju for 108. You probably don't have to spend that much.
Yeah. Now Juju is he's dropped in my rankings. On last week, I had a big take about Juju. I said he should retire. And go and do his TikTok career. He would get less hurt and he would make more money that way. I really did say it last week on this very show. A week ago. You can go roll the tape. I said that Juju should retire.
What about...
I got Josh to agree with me, too.
Could you get J.K. Dobbins for like 105 and 108?
You don't have to pay You don't have to pay anymore.
You don't think?
I don't think you have to
not
both.
and.
No.
Oh, I feel like I would. I all this news on J.K. Dobbins and to see him kind of clap back on it, I love that.
Well, I love.
I did. I did too, and I just don't think you have to give both picks. You probably have to give 105 and something, or maybe you give both picks and get a 23 second or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to give one, I'm not even giving the 105, so I'm not. I'm totally out on J.K. Dobbins. I don't want any part of it. So,
Nicholas asked, where would you want to draft if you could choose in a 12-team Superflex third-round reversal?
It's different than the choice I made in the Scott Fish Bowl. In the Scott Fish Bowl, I wasn't as concerned about the quarterbacks early in the same way because it's redraft, so age didn't matter. So I went with the 11. But in a startup, I really want one of those quarterbacks. So if I take the 11, thinking that I'm going to get the 12, getting the 301 or the 302 with it, then I'm missing out on those top quarterbacks. It's third round reversal is tough. In a regular draft, obviously I want the 101 so I can trade it.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking even with this, right? Yeah. You'd still be able to have the most value if you wanted to trade back with the 101 if you got to choose. I
have my answer. I'll take the 11. I'll take the 11 anyway because I'm looking at the top of a Superflex draft, whether it's tight end, assuming it's tight end premium. If it's not, then I'll take the 10. Then there's 11 players that I think are above the rest. With the 6 quarterbacks, Taylor, Chase, Jefferson, Pitts in the tight end premium, and Dak above everyone else. So I'll take the 11.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I would stick with what Tyler was mentioning earlier, in that you want to be in that top 6 to get one of those quarterbacks. So even with the third round reversal, that would be my answer.
I suppose if you take 101, you can probably trade down and accumulate a lot of extra value, which does change things up a little bit. Because I would love, if I had the 101 and could move down to the 103, I would love to do that. I've seen the 101 for the 103 and a 23 first, which is insane to me. But I have seen that.
Henry says he was offered Lamb for Javonte, but not feeling that. Javonte is 22 and one of my favorites. What do you think? We want Lamb or Javonte Williams?
I have them back to back.
I want Lamb.
I want Lamb too, but I have them back to back. I don't have a strong preference.
Would you want Javonte or let's say what about Philadelphia Brown? Why can't I think of
AJ Brown?
AJ Brown.
Yeah, no, I have it Lamb, Javonte, AJ Brown in that order.
Okay.
Back to back to back. So I guess that's my answer.
AJ Brown
Right
or
next to each other.
Javonte? Brian?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the wide receiver almost every time. So I'll take AJ Brown there.
Yeah, no, if the people haven't realized, I think Ryan might be in competition for me for the biggest ageist. I'm very obviously like a very, very much an ageist, but I think I'm more of an ageist. I don't have the same running back, and I think I'm more willing to take running backs. I've noticed in my answers, but it has to be young ones usually.
Should we be holding on to Gronk, whether it's a short roster or big roster league? What do you guys think?
Just the best way to ask this question is Gronk or blank, like based on your particular league. But generally, depends. I don't have to.
I think he's done.
Yeah, I don't think you can keep him in a 20-player league. And honestly, I don't know how you have Brevin Jordan on your roster in a 20-player league. So that, I would probably drop Gronk and drop Brevin Jordan and find a receiver or a running back that I can maybe use. Because if there's 20-player rosters, there's a pretty healthy waiver wire.
I've got Jordan ranked 30 spots above his ADP, so I would probably have him rostered. But
Who Dat Dude had the 105 in his Dynasty draft, ended up with Garrett Wilson. Wow. Dotson fell pretty far then, and David Bell.
So you're saying that you got Wilson at the 105, Dotson at the 205, and Bell at the 3? That can't be real.
There's no way, right?
In a 12-team league? If it's a 10-team league, I'm more likely. It's still crazy to me. But in a 12-team league, that's insane, right? I mean, Dotson should not be falling to the 205, or maybe you didn't have all of your own pick. Because if this is what I'm, the regular way, it doesn't sound realistic, right? I mean, Bell never fell
Sounds
out.
Great for him.
This is a cause for celebration. Here. I'm a little in disbelief of this.
Fantasy Condo, AJ Brown or Sky Moore in a 23 first. Just nabbed Brown to start up. I know you're very high on him, Tyler. 10-team, super flex, half PPR.
That's just not good enough. That's not good enough. I'll take AJ Brown. Sky Moore would need to be. I can scroll for you. I can tell you how good Sky Moore needs to be. I'll go through my rankings. How good does he have to be?
I think it's close to good enough for me, and the 10-team piece matters. Because you're talking a guaranteed top 10 pick versus
it does help,
versus maybe the 11 or 12. I think I'm with Tyler. It's not quite enough, but it is.
Let's
close.
say it were Hollywood Brown instead. Would that be good enough?
That would be good enough for me.
Yeah, definitely. That's getting there for me. I think I'd have to go. I'm looking at my rankings. The younger guys, the Garrett Wilson and Drake London, the two rookies from this class that I really like, or Michael Pittman, who I also really like. If that were them with the 23 first, I think I would go with the 23 first. But that's around the line for me.
Mark says, happy Taco Tuesday, boys. 12-team Superflex, start 10 PPR, Breece Hall or a 23 first and a 24 first. Breece Hall had a 2-hour holdout earlier today, I think.
Well, that was such a non-story. I'll go with Hall. Feels a little weird, but I'll go with Hall. 24 first just doesn't carry the same special value to me as a 23 first, so I'll go with Hall.
Ryan's in pain.
I'm taking. Yeah, that's a tough one for me. recorded the DLF Dynasty podcast earlier tonight, and I said that in a super flex league, there may be 6 or 7 rookies next year that you would take over Breece Hall.
Really? Seems like a lot.
I'm going to still take Hall, but it's very close. And if you again, you look at your league, if you feel like that pick might be top 5 or 6, that would be enough to push me towards the picks.
I wish that the 24 first were something else, that a player I liked more. Another 23 first. I mean, great.
I mean, you flip it, right? We're talking assets.
Sure.
So you flip it for Hollywood Brown, or
I think what I would want is going to be something that I can't flip it for. Like I would essentially want the players I listed earlier, like Michael Pittman. I don't think you can flip a 24 first for Michael Pittman.
No, I don't think you do definitely not.
Chris Godwin might be the one to target, actually, because people do not like him, but I would love to have him.
So if you're going to trade Breece Hall potentially for this, Ryan, how many running backs would you say no to this for? Jonathan Taylor, Swift, Harris, Javonte Williams?
I do have Hall pretty high in my rankings. I'd rather have Hall than Javonte. So yeah, we're talking about certainly Taylor, obviously. Hall and Swift. Taylor and Swift, and then Hall's kind of on the fence.
Where do you have Hall? 3, 4?
I think I have him 3. I believe. Yeah,
3. Yeah, I have him at 6, but I don't know.
So if you have him 3 and there's that many assets in 23,
I need to check my rankings.
Wow, that tells you a lot. That says a lot right there.
What's that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, sorry. It just if you have him at 3 or 4 in your running back rankings, and you're saying there are 6 or 7 assets better coming in 23. I mean, that says a lot about the class. That may be the strongest statement about that class that I've heard yet, maybe.
Yeah, well, it also kind of tells you how I value the running back position in general.
Right.
Compared to other positions. I mean, I look at that class next year and I feel like we basically have 2 running back studs, 2 wide receiver studs, and like 1.5 quarterback studs. That, if you're in a Devy league, or if somehow you could guarantee what position that pick is for next year, I'm valuing those as elite assets. I mean, it's not a novel concept or sentiment to hear people say that Bijan Robinson is really the dynasty RB2, right? Like I've seen a ton of people with that thought. I don't know if I would go that far, but when you're talking about 2 first rounders for a guy like Breece Hall, that's enough to push it that way.
Stickman 10 team Superflex start 9 got offered James Robinson in a 23 second for Alexander Madison. Do I take it? Yeah, absolutely right.
Yes, I'd rather have James Robinson over Alexander Madison.
And the second over both of them, probably.
Yeah, the second over both of them. But I would rather have James Robinson because James Robinson has actually shown, obviously he tore his Achilles, but he's actually shown that he's good. Alexander Madison is nothing. He's nothing. He's just a guy. Nothing at all. He has very much disappointed in most of the times he's replaced Dalvin Cook. And I never understood this, but I went back and looked at some of the stats and I was like, okay, I'm right about this. I'm glad. I had people telling me, oh yeah, Alexander Madison is just as good as Dalvin Cook. It's just like, just as good. Like it's not much of a difference. And I was like, some people on Twitter, you'll never convince, I suppose. But no, Alexander Madison is just a guy. And I think that, Minnesota has gotten him on the value rookie deal. He's been a nice backup. This is the last year of that rookie deal. He'll be gone. And he won't have any usefulness after this.
I mostly agree. I do think he's been impressive when he's been given the chance. When Dalvin Cook has been out of the lineup, I mean, he's had some huge games. He's averaged over 20 fantasy points per game when Cook is out of the lineup. The problem is when Cook is not out of the lineup, Madison is a nothing. He's not a Tony Pollard that you can flex and get a handful of touches every game. he's basically not going to see the field if Dalvin Cook is healthy. And Cal, you nailed it. That I think the 23-second is the best piece of this deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's also had his own problems staying healthy. He was healthy last year, but in 2019 and 2020, there were times where there was the time where Cook was out and then Madison was out too. And you had the Mike Boone incident.
Mm-hmm.
And I will also note, though, for the record, just because I love saying this, Alexander Madison is over a year younger than Bellis Jones. But nobody cares about that.
Gary Russell is doing a 14-team startup and wondering what your thoughts are on roster size. Presently one with 22. Okay. Man, you picked the right day to ask this question. Ryan, roster size when it comes to this. By the way, you should check out Commission Impossible.
I was literally about to say that. I was literally about to be like, well, this would be a good time for you to talk about Commission Impossible, which I really like. I've actually listened to every episode. I really like it.
Nice,
so,
nice. Thank you. We need to get one in the hopper.
Yeah, I would recommend it.
That part of the question first, and then we'll talk about Superflex strategy and that too. But as far as roster size, Ryan, what would you recommend?
I mean, I prefer larger rosters personally, and I mean, I think there's reasons to go both ways on that. But with Superflex, I just think you have to do more than 22. I mean, typically 25 is kind of my low number if you're talking about a Superflex league. It is 14 teams, so that changes things obviously a little bit. But I would bump that up at least a couple, maybe even 3 spots.
I mean, for me, when I have 12 teams, I want 30 spots. So that's 360 players rostered. So if you go 360 divided by 14, that's about 25.7. So then, yeah, I'd say to have a similar player pool, 25 or 26 players would work for me. I think having the player pool being the same is about right. Since it's 14 teams, a little bit more depth, I guess I'd lean towards the slightly higher number, 26 or 27 spots. But yeah, generally that player pool size, 30x12 for that 360 player pool is what I usually want.
And I think it's also you also have to consider starting lineups. I think that's kind of what you can base it from. I mean, I think 2.5 times your starting lineup is pretty safe. You know, if you're starting 10, maybe you're even starting 11 with the Superflex potentially. So 2.5x is kind of
starting 11 in a 14-team league is a lot. That's starting 154 players every week. That's a lot.
I feel like that's
a lot of bad players being played.
That is a lot.
You think about that, right?
I do think I think the start 11 or even start 12 is kind of gaining popularity in dynasty leagues. Not necessarily 14 teamers, as you said, that would definitely be a challenge. But the larger starting lineups, it seems to be kind of a trend, and I think it's a good one. You know, I think it's a good way to separate your active managers and really just your good managers from not so good.
Yeah, I think my favorite format is the Trade Addicts one, which is the 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 super flex, and 5 flex. So 10, that's start 10. It's probably my favorite, but if you wanted to say 6 flex instead of 5, make it start 11, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I do like the 1-1-1 setup though.
Yeah, so
I know a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah, I started the hyperactive leagues probably like 15 years ago, something like that. And those, we did start 1 of each position. And that was like sacrilegious at that point, not to start 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end and have your 2 flex spots.
Flexes were rare, back then.
Yeah, flexes were definitely not common either. So I love to see that format has gained popularity. You know, I know even over at Safe Leagues, they have the Ultra Flex leagues where you can basically name your starting lineup, right? Like 2 quarterbacks max, but you don't have to start any. So it's 0 to 2 and then 0 to 10, the other 3 positions.
I will say a 14 team, I can go one way or the other, but if you're going to play a 16 team super flex, I highly suggest having it super flex slots instead of quarterback and super flex. For 14 team, I could go either way, but I don't mind the super flex format. Just because having zeros is not I would say it's less fun. You never know. It could be you want to give someone. I like giving in the 14 or 16 team superflex. The quarterback pool gets very thin, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like giving the person the opportunity to start that random wide receiver 5, and you never know. That could be the week they catch 2 touchdowns. I think it adds a little bit more strategy than I don't have a quarterback. Oh, 0. Oh, okay. Like
Yeah,
I like that.
It did seem like, and I mean, I didn't check the numbers across all the leagues or anything like that, but I was in a few of them myself, and of course, talked to Scott Fish, who runs those leagues, about it, and it did feel like there were far fewer trades in those leagues because of exactly what you're saying, Tyler. You like, I don't have a tight end. Okay, no big deal. I don't have to start one. I don't even have to start a quarterback. So if I've got this quarterback one and he gets hurt, I'll just start my 3rd running back instead. So it was almost too much flexibility for the dynasty managers because, and that resulted in less trades.
I do feel that larger leagues trade less and smaller leagues. Like, I do not personally enjoy 14 and 16 team leagues. I think 12 teams is the right number because it allows, in 14 team leagues, you get stuck in the, I just can't afford to do this. I can't trade this too often. I feel like 12 teams is the right balance. And 10 team league, you often can just kind of, even don't need to trade, or all the trades are super like 5 for 1, 6 for 1, like one person like built up all the assets and then they trade down. But I have felt that as someone who's, looked at all of these kind of leagues, I felt the 12 team is by far the most active.
Yeah, and I think just very briefly, I think you guys would both agree, like a 14 team, you got to get one of those. You got to get
absolutely
your first 2 picks. You probably have to pick a quarterback, right?
Oh no, in a 14 team league, and I've said this on here, and I'll say it again. In a 14 team league, add 50% to the value of every quarterback, 50%, and in a 16 team league, double it in a 16 team league. It's the quarterback scarcity goes up more and more over time because in a 14 team league, you can start 28. In a 16 team league, you can start 32. There only are 32.
Right.
And some of them have buys every week. So in a 14 team league, you're going to have weeks where there aren't even 28, let alone. So I would, Dak would be in a 14 team league. Dak would be my 7th player. Lawrence and Lance would be close to the, Lawrence, Lance, Wilson, Hurts would all be up at the early 2nd, the very least. And then Stafford, Fields, Watson. It's harder to take Watson in a larger league because if you miss at the top in a larger league, you're so done. So I don't know about him, but even like Carr or Tua, those are going to be 2nd round picks for me in a 14 team league. I'm just not taking any chances at quarterback there.
Eddie says, happy Taco Tuesday, guys. Had this offer in my inbox, 10 team Superflex, half PPR, or half tight end premium, excuse me. Send Matt Ryan and a 23 first for Godwin, Hawkinson, and Cortland Sutton. Lots of breakdown there. Tyler, what do you think?
Well, I don't want Matt Ryan. So the 23 first, it just feels like this is too many players. I'll take the Godwin side.
Ryan?
Yeah, this is definitely somebody hunting for those first rounders, and I mean, to get them, you've got to overpay, and that's what this is. We're talking about a starting tight end. It's tight end premium. Even though you're giving up the quarterback, it is your 4th quarterback, obviously a veteran nearing the end of his career. I'm with Tyler. It's just too much to pass on. You're getting 3 starters here and not giving up any.
Yep. Like that. Nicholas wants to know Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore in a startup this year. If you could only choose one, Ryan, which one are you going?
Easy. Elijah Moore. Not close.
Oh, up to 190 pounds, Tyler.
190 pounds. I'll take the not 190 pounds. I'll take Garrett Wilson.
Interesting. Okay. Do you want to square off on that? Right?
I mean, ADP is with Garrett Wilson, but I have Garrett Wilson, just to give you an idea. So I don't think this is the one to square off on. I have Garrett Wilson 21 spots above his ADP and Elijah Moore 19 spots above his ADP. So we're not talking about players I dislike. I have basically the same gap as ADP, just way higher. So I'm very, very high on both of these players.
Yeah, and my not close comment was more about my my love of Elijah Moore, not a dislike of Garrett Wilson. Wilson is fine to me, but what we saw from Moore last year in what was kind of a broken offense was just so impressive. And I don't think the offense will be broken or as broken this year. I'm really excited to see that Jets offense. I do expect some big improvement from them. And I think that only boosts Elijah Moore. Again, I said it on the DLF podcast tonight. I think this time next year, Elijah Moore is a second rounder in Dynasty startups.
Where do you have
said
Elijah
you liked
Moore
Elijah
ranked?
Moore. You've got him 10. I just pulled up your rankings
okay.
at wide
10.
receiver. Wow.
I thought I liked him. Where's he in ADP?
Let's see. He is.
I know where he is overall,
like
but
a
I
fifth
don't have.
rounder.
Yeah, he's 55 overall. I know that.
Wide receiver 27.
Okay, so I basically have him directly in the middle between your rank and ADP because I have him at wide receiver 19.
So wide receiver 10, you've got him over DK Metcalf.
Yep.
Yeah, I
you
definitely
have him over. Yeah, that's a lot of.
I have Metcalf at 7.
Devonta Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Hollywood, Jerry Judy, Deontay Johnson. That's big. I love that. I mean, I'm a big Elijah Moore guy, Ole Miss guy. I love it.
I do agree, though, that there's room to rise for, to me, actually a difference between Elijah Moore and Hollywood Brown. It's actually, I more agree with you on this one, is that Elijah Moore, to me, is the kind of player where I feel like there's more ceiling. I feel like I saw it in 6 games. 6 games were good. They were good. That showed that he could be a wide receiver 1 if everything comes together. Now, is it going to be that way in this offense, with Garrett Wilson also there? Is that going to be the reality? Maybe not. But I did like that he showed a wide receiver 1 upside. So that's why I still have him at 19. But I have Garrett Wilson at 15. So higher.
So Pete is the only other one that has Elijah Moore ahead of Garrett Wilson. Every other ranker at DLF has Garrett Wilson ahead. So you're out on a limb there, Ryan.
That's all right. I've been
You've
there
been
before.
It's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Order 66, 12 teams, Superflex, PPR. Start 10, Jameson, Williams, or Pickens, and a 23 second.
I mean, it's probably about right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty close. I think I'll probably go with Jameson Williams here, but that's fair.
Me too. I think that, it's fair. I mean, I'm actually doing, I don't know if you saw the discussion in the content part of the DLF Slack, but I said I was going to do an article on Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra, and I was offered graphics. I was offered graphics for an article that has not been started, but it hasn't even been started. I haven't even taken it out of the template yet. So it could be a couple days for that one. But yes, I will be writing an article about Jameson Williams versus Amon-Ra St. Brown, in which I'm probably going to say that I like Jameson Williams better. And George Pickens I do like, though. But I don't know. 23 seconds are cool. But I'll take Jameson Williams. Barely.
Nicholas has a question about the higher ceiling, Waddle or Higgins. I don't know exactly how to define ceiling here. Should we say ADP or finish for the season? Either way, take it however you want. Tyler, what do you think? Who has the higher ceiling?
Who has the higher ceiling? So is this question, because there's 2 different answers. Is this question just take them off their teams, just they exist as themselves, who has the higher ceiling? Or in the foreseeable future, who has the higher ceiling? Because if you take them out, if you just put them in a vacuum, T. Higgins has a higher ceiling than Jalen Waddle. But the problem is that T. Higgins is stuck with Jamar Chase, who caps his ceiling at wide receiver 8 or 9 for eternity until he's unstuck. So whereas Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill is aging. Tyreek Hill this is 28. I think this is it. I think this is the year the transition already happens. I think I have Hill ranked slightly higher for redraft, but I expect that the transition to Waddle over Hill comes in this year. And then by 2023, it's easily Waddle for the rest of the year. So whereas the Chase transition is not happening, I just expect, if you look at Justin Jefferson's year 1 to year 2, where the volume went up significantly, even though the yards did not add that much, I expect that from Chase. So more targets, more receptions, to only further take away from Higgins. So yeah, I guess that's my non-answer answer to this question, but I think it's better than anything else I could have said.
Right now, wide receiver 8 in the ADP is Jalen Waddle, and T. Higgins is wide receiver 7. Ryan, how would you say the ceiling differs between the two? It kind of apples to kind of seems like very similar players to me in this sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jalen Waddle has the higher ceiling. You know, you look at what was viewed as his strength coming into the league, and he was that big play threat. He was the guy who could get deep, and he wasn't really used that way last year at all. You know, I've actually I've called Jalen Waddle the 2021 version of Antonio Gibson, because he came into the league and he had what we viewed as this specialty that could really set him apart, and he succeeded in spite of not really being used that way. We saw the same thing with Gibson as a rookie, who had some success, even though he didn't get targets, which we thought that's what would really kind of set him apart as a fantasy asset. So now you look at Jalen Waddle, and I mean, it's up to the Miami coaching staff and Tua, I guess, if they use him as that deep threat. We know he has that skill set. If he's used that way, if he adds that piece to what we saw last year, where he was used more as almost as a possession receiver, intermediate receiver, then I think when you're talking about higher ceiling or upside, I think it easily becomes Waddle. And this is a guy who, as a rookie with Tua and as his quarterback, and again, kind of a messed up offense with a coach who was on his way out, he was still a top 24 receiver in 50% of his games, a top 12 receiver in 25% of his games. So that was last year as a rookie. And I know, of course, Tyreek Hill is obviously target competition, but I'm with Tyler. I think we're going to see Waddle kind of become, I don't want to say the alpha of that offense, because it's not even that type of receiver, but become the wide receiver 1.
It's crazy though. Like, I thought I was an ageist, but you have T. Higgins at 4 and Jalen Waddle at 5. So like there
you go. It's one of those.
I had them high. I have Waddle at 6 and Higgins at 8.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those situations where I need to go check my rankings, like we talked about earlier.
It's really interesting. So I look at he was wide receiver 7. T. Higgins was from week 12 on, when it seemed like, things really started going very well for him. Him and Jamar Chase were actually back to back from week 12 to 18. So an offense that can definitely support both of them. I think the jury is still out on whether Waddle and Hill can both be supported by Tua. If Tua doesn't prove that he can do that this year, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
Well, I mean, Stephen Ross might have to go back to the marina. He might have to go back to the marina, and maybe he'll find the unnamed, high-priced veteran quarterback there. We couldn't know who that is. We wouldn't know anything about that. But anyway, he might find them there. I don't know. Maybe he'll unlock Tom Brady, by the way, unlock in 2023 these receivers.
T. Higgins had 3 wide receiver 1 games with Joe Burrow throwing him the ball. Jalen Waddle had 4 with Tua throwing him the ball.
So there you go.
There you go. There you go.
Imagine what it would be like with Tom Brady.
Obviously, Jamar Chase is a huge part of that, obviously. But like Tyler said, Jamar Chase is not going away. And this is not meant to be T. Higgins slander. What do I have him? I have him wide receiver 4.
You got him at 4.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to flip that. I'm going to have Waddle at 4 and T. Higgins at 5.
But you'll still have them both higher than me.
Yeah. I like it.
So
Nicholas says he chimes back in. Who's going to have a better season this year, Travis Etienne or Breece Hall? Just this year.
I don't know why it would be Etienne.
The only reason is if he ends up being a primary target for Lawrence, I can see it. Like if he ends up playing that role where he ends up being like a high volume target. I mean, because we know targets and receptions are worth more fantasy points than touches are, or than carries are, right?
Breece Hall though is a very good receiver. Why can't he get those targets?
I don't know that he will. Maybe he will.
I don't
think
agree
we're
with
more
that.
confident Etienne will have more targets.
I don't know about that. I think that you could see that the Jets beat reporters were talking about how Breece Hall is their guy. He's their guy, and they hadn't even seen him do anything, but he was their guy. They were like, he's the guy. He's going to be the guy. He's going to get everything. And Michael Carter, he'll come in at times. He'll mix in to the mix. So I think we see what's going to happen there.
Mayday 12 team Superflex Star 10 traded Deshaun. I'm assuming that's Deshaun Watson and Marquise. That's Hollywood Brown for Jared Goff, Sky Moore, and 23 first.
I'll take the 23 firsts.
Yeah. Easy. West Coast Chiefer, 12 teams Superflex PPRs. Ken Walker worth a 23 first or a first plus?
No. Hey, we're going the wrong direction. I don't think we're having a plus. I've very much soured on Ken Walker. Once it went from Kenneth Walker to Ken Walker, it was over for me. It was over. I couldn't take it anymore. I know I did drop in my rankings. I still have him well above his current ADP, which I think is too low, but
so why are you dropping him? Is it just because of the
it just doesn't seem like
Wait, his ADP is running back 18. You have him higher than that?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I have him at that can't be right. Or maybe it is. Yeah, I have him at 11.
Oh.
Whoa.
Okay.
I used to have him higher than that.
I do?
No, I used to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's been dropping. And if I continue to not like what I'm hearing, he's going to continue to drop. But the days where he was worth, he was never really worth more than a 23 first to me. So
I wouldn't pay a first for him. If I could flip him for a 23 first, I would definitely do that.
Mayday says if 23 first were offered to you for Kyler in a 12 team Superflex start 10, are you taking it?
No.
23 first?
No. If we're talking random first, no. If you're looking at those teams and evaluating that one of these is a virtual lock to be a top 3 pick, then I'm starting to consider. But if we're talking 3 random first, 3 mid first, then no.
No, assets like Kyler are irreplaceable. So no.
Let's see. Mark Jankowski. Today I learned Brandon Bolden had 41 catches and 44 rush attempts in 2021. Had no idea he was that involved in the passing game. Not much, but something. Yeah, I learned that N'Keal Harry was still in the league this past week when he got traded. So
you know how I knew that Brandon Bolden exists? It's from doing start sit. Doing start sit and having a rank. Do I put Brandon Bolden at running back 40? Or how about running back 45 this week? Like doing that every week, I realized that he actually is getting touches, and it's so annoying to have to rank that part of the rankings. It's not fun, but you do it because you never know who's in deep leagues. But
well, he was a Belichick favorite, but
oh yeah,
it looks like New England is changing their offense. Brandon Bolden is a Las Vegas Raider now
with McDaniels.
Yeah, so
but it could be the same thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying.
Maybe Kenyon Drake gets cut. Maybe Kenyon Drake doesn't even make that roster.
They restructured Kenyon Drake's contract before because they had to. They were out of cap room before but they restructured.
That contract was bad when they gave it to him.
Well, it was all bad, but they guaranteed all of his money, so he's not going anywhere.
George, 10 teams Superflex, 1 PPR. I gotta go faster. We're almost an hour behind. I'm trying.
Hey, we were almost 2 hours behind last week.
Give Jalen Hurts and McLaurin. Get Lamar Jackson.
Lamar.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice guy Gino. Am I stupid to take Justin Jefferson at 4? If so, who's my best option in your opinion? Let's say Superflex for argument's sake.
Then yes, it is stupid. Take one of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, if we're talking Superflex, I'm taking a quarterback. If we're talking one quarterback, I would be surprised if he were available at 4.
He won't be. Yeah. I haven't seen anything other than Taylor, Chase, and Jefferson at 1, 2, 3, and 1 QB, ever. So he won't be there.
We pretty much answered this one. Ken Walker or 23 first and Claypool. Take
first
and Claypool there.
Yeah. Claypool's a nice bonus piece there.
Yeah.
What's the earliest you'll draft Trey Lance in a 12-team Superflex? Early second?
I have him 16 overall. If you take out the tight end premium, that pushes Mark Andrews behind him. So then he would move up to 15.
Yeah,
so yeah,
probably,
I guess that is early
about that
second
same
then.
range. Yep.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a big bump here too as soon as Jimmy gets traded. I think he'll get up ahead of Dak, and
well, he's not going to move for me. I've priced that Jimmy's gone the whole time, so he's not going to move in my range.
Yeah.
But yeah, in ADP, yes.
Let's see, 2 QB going QB for 6 straight.
Just like I said.
Sean says wants to know Jerry Judy or Devonta Smith. I know you're out on Devonta Smith, Tyler. What about you, Ryan?
I'm not quite out on Devonta Smith, but I definitely prefer Jerry Judy here pretty easily.
Judy's younger than Smith, was better than Smith in college, so I don't know why I would go with Smith. Really, I mean, Smith's situation is terrible, so I'll go with Jerry Judy. I feel bad for Devonta Smith, honestly. He had a good rookie year, and he's just been screwed over. I hope he takes the Hollywood Brown path, actually, and gets out of this team and goes somewhere else, because I think he is good. But he's not going to succeed here. Good players don't break out of horrible situations. Only excellent players break out of horrible situations. Devonta Smith is not excellent. He's good, but not excellent.
Open 24 hours. I don't know why, but I took an orphan in a 14-team league. Start 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 1 flex, 1 kicker, 1 defense.
I have a problem with this league format. We're going to have a 14-team league where we start 2 tight ends. That sounds like misery. Does that not sound like from, your time on Commission Impossible, a league where 28 tight ends are mandated to start every week? Does that not sound like miserable to you? Because that sounds horrible, right?
Yeah, that is horrible. Fun. I've been in that type of league before, and it was no fun. We changed the rules after the first year to take away that mandatory 2 tight ends. So that's. I'm out on this league.
That's the essence of the
to answer your
question.
Yeah. How valuable are tight ends?
Yeah,
very, very valuable. I would focus on tight end at this point. And tight end is your best tight end is Uzama. Oh, we have a big problem.
Really big problem here.
Yeah, we have. This is a problem.
I like Eric's suggestion of trying to get Pat Freiermuth. He seems
not going to be able to do that. He's going to cost a first plus in that format. He will. Yeah. He's going to cost a first or more.
I know he's one of Peter's favorite. Feels like he's undervalued still.
I agree. I have him ranked higher than the ADP does. Significantly higher. I believe, ADP's got him at 107 in the 1 QB. I have him at 85. So 22 spots higher. I've noticed I'm not as much with consensus as maybe I once was. I used to be spot on a lot of these ADPs. I don't know what's changed, but maybe the ADP is moved away from the way I play Dynasty, but I'm miles off some of these ADPs, much more than I ever used to be. But I don't know why that is.
Well, the ADP shifts. The ADP shifts throughout the year. And presumably your strategy or your general value on players probably does not. The closer we get, July, August, the closer we get to the regular season, almost by default, that redraft mentality takes over, and we see it. We see it in resulting in ADP for the veterans, lower ADP for rookies. So that's maybe it's just the season that we're in. I don't know.
I feel like I've noticed it though. This whole off season, I've been far off.
Gotcha.
Not just the last couple of months. I was talking this offseason, the entire offseason, I've been farther away from ADP than in the past. Maybe it's because I've started, doing things a little bit more on my own and not tuning out some of the other voices in my podcasts, other stuff in my decision making. Maybe that's why. And we're seeing that my process in itself is a little bit farther from the consensus than maybe I thought it was. Maybe I'm less afraid to have a non-consensus rank than I was. That's maybe part of it. I used to be afraid. Like, I don't know if this is something either of you ever experienced, but I used to be like afraid to put out a rank. Maybe not now, but a couple years ago, if I put out a rank that was wildly different from consensus, I was like, I can't put this out. I'm gonna get like roasted or like destroyed for this. Nowadays I just put it out anyway because I don't care as much. But it is definitely something that maybe I've gotten over that fear in the last couple of years. I don't know.
George
I think it's all about.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, Cal. I think it's all about kind of your motivation. And you talked about it earlier that, you do a mock draft or you find yourself, maybe you get a 1-for-1 trade offer that goes against your rankings. And that, that kind of puts it to the test. And I mean, I think it's okay to change your mind on those things, but we see it out there from a lot of people, unfortunately, that they're ranking players just crazily, honestly. And they don't necessarily follow through with that or, don't really believe in it, wouldn't really build their team that way.
That's why when I don't follow through, I go and change the ranks. Yeah. Like I dropped Matthew Stafford in my Matthew Stafford's actually the player. I dropped him in my super flex ranks significantly because I looked at it and I was like, why do I have Matthew Stafford at 18th overall in super flex? Why should he be there? He's 34, doesn't run, was decent last year, but threw a lot of interceptions. That was a path for an older quarterback who doesn't run to fantasy success. He wasn't even all that great. It's not like he won your league. He didn't win for you. It's like, why is he ranked that high? Just because they won the Super Bowl? And I looked at it and I looked at everything. It was kind of like, no, that's really why he was ranked that high. Because they won the Super Bowl, he got a contract. That's it. But he shouldn't be ranked that high. So I went and moved him down to, now I have him at 28 overall, which I think is more reasonable. Because I didn't want to draft him there when I was on the clock.
We're going to jump in here with Scuba Steve asking George Pickens or a 23 second. Which one would you rather have?
Pickens, I guess. Yeah, Pickens, I guess.
It's always a question of, I kind of said it earlier. It's not just Pickens versus this 23 second. It's what else could you get for that 23 second? If you're running back short and you can get Zeke Elliott or Leonard Fournette or whoever we were talking about earlier,
Connor,
then that's the trade you should do. Connor, right. But on face value, in a vacuum, whatever, this trade's fine. And I like Pickens.
I think we're at the point where you could get Josh Jacobs for a 23 second. I mean, we know I don't like him, but like that's not an unreasonable thing to do.
This is Dan Marino's favorite show, and he chimes in and asks 12-team Superflex starts in PPR, Keenan Allen, Zach Ertz, early 23 second, or Jamison Knox, Hassan Haskins, and a late 23 third. Wow.
I'll be an ageist and take the Jamison side.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Yep, I will take that side as well.
Yeah, ADP would be against us, I'm sure.
But I think I'd go Allen and Ertz in a 23 second here. I just don't. I'm not a big Jamison fan. I guess is part of it. So
yeah, I assume Ryan's rankings of Keenan Allen and Jameson Williams are maybe no, no, because you have Jameson Williams at 29 and Keenan Allen at 31. Okay, so you have them both lower. I have Jameson Williams at 23 and Keenan Allen at 30.
Grant traded away 2 firsts in 2023, 1 projected early, 1 projected late for CD Lamb this week. How do you do?
One QB, it's good. I'll take Lamb there over the firsts.
Yep.
Super flex, I'd hesitate, but 1 QB, we're good.
Let's see. Follow up on his question: what players are worth at least 2 23 firsts in a 1 QB league?
Well, you named one, Lamb, and then I would DeAndre Swift. Harris, Pitts, obviously Taylor, Chase, and Jefferson. Devonta for me in 1 QB. It's worth 2 firsts. AJ Brown. And then the next player in my rankings is Cooper Kupp, and I'm already hesitating on 2 firsts.
Yeah, I think we can probably go 12, 10, 12, maybe 15 deep with that.
Yeah.
And Tyler named most of them there.
Maybe Breece Hall would be in there. I'd actually rather trade the first. I have AJ Brown, I have Cooper Kupp and Christian McCaffrey ranked ahead, but if I'm gonna risk it, I'd rather not take the dying asset, even if I'd rather draft them. If I'm going to give up the capital, I might do it for Hall. I might not for those guys. And then I get to Waddle, Metcalf, Higgins. I'm starting to. I think that's definitely it. Because the next player is Debo, and I'm definitely not. For me, I'm not giving up 223 first for Debo. Too risky for me.
Bella must be getting close to a roster cut down. Ask when we see guys like Chris Godwin and Michael Gallup get moved with some sort of injury designation. So this is about the time of year you start to feel that crunch, and it's going to be later than you want.
Later. The Bucks say that they expect Chris Godwin to play week 1. I don't buy it, but that's what they said. They think they want to play week 1.
I'm not sure Gallup will, right? I mean, that's
Gallup. I highly doubt. I do not think Gallup will play week 1. I think with Godwin, I don't think Godwin goes on the pup. I think Godwin, the question is, does Godwin play week 1? Is it week 1 or week 2 or week 3? But I think it's going to be soon. And how limited is he? With Gallup, I think it's a different question. Gallup's not playing week 1. I think is Gallup put on the pup or not? Are we looking, is it 4, 6? When is it going to be? I think it's going to be way longer, which is interesting because who got hurt first? Gallup got hurt first, right? Gallup had his injury first, but there was a complication with that one, wasn't there? There was an issue. There was an additional surgery or something. There was some additional issue in his knee. So that one seemed to get slowed down.
There was a long delay in him actually getting the initial surgery. I'm not sure what caused that delay, but
I think it's because there was some swelling issue that caused the surgery to be delayed.
So, I mean, I think the problem here, and this is probably league host dependent, if you're playing on Sleeper or MFL
are very different,
or whatever. The problem is, though, I mean, there's camp pup and there's regular season pup, and those are two different things. And once a player gets put on camp pup, they're not necessarily noted. And I play mostly on MFL. They're not necessarily noted on MFL. You got to wait until they get put on regular season pup instead. So unfortunately, it might be. I mean, it may be another month potentially.
Yeah, I mean, on Sleeper, the rules are a little more inconsistent, but sometimes they show up on there and sometimes they don't.
Good question. Tyler says, I, also a Tyler, would like your thoughts on the Jets offense this year. Who are we buying? Is Zach Wilson a buy low? Tyler, obviously we have to start with you on this one.
Sure. I think that both Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore are buys compared to their ADP. We talked about that in detail earlier. Breece Hall, I'm fine with his price as well. There's really no one it's funny because after all that, Zach Wilson, I'm like okay with. But
he's on my Scott Fishbowl roster.
See, I wouldn't want
mine as well.
Yeah,
he's not on mine.
Any thoughts on the additional thoughts on the Jets offense there, Ryan?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned him a little bit earlier. I do expect I expect big things from this offense. They've invested a ton of early picks on really all of those offensive positions that we care so much about. I would definitely be buying Elijah Moore. Obviously talked about that earlier. I think Garrett Wilson is a fine buy. Breece Hall. I mean, we're talking about these guys are expensive. He asked about Zach Wilson. So that's I do like Zach Wilson as a buy low, and that's kind of an easier way to get access to the offense and to the the upside that we expect from Hall, from Moore, from Wilson.
Gary is asking about injured players, and we've talked a little bit about Godwin and Gallup. We briefly mentioned JK. Odell Beckham, I don't feel like there's anything out about him. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of news, and obviously he tore his ACL much later and injured much later than the rest of them. But I mean, he's somebody that's basically free in dynasty leagues right now. Are you interested in rostering him at all, Tyler or Ryan?
No, not really.
No.
I mean, I'm interested in really all of these guys because we almost always see a value bounce back from. I mean, even the Cam Akers situation where, I mean, there was concern that guy would never play again, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, he was being flipped for future seconds, which feels kind of silly now. But I mean, all these guys are going to play again. We've seen their value drop already. I mean, Dobbins' value is kind of on the way back already. So I don't know if you're getting much of a discount there. The receivers, there is still a discount on, certainly on OBJ. There is. I mean, Godwin, of the guys he mentioned, Godwin's the one I talked about, or that I'm most interested in. And Tyler talked about him being undervalued earlier. I totally agree. If you can find a discount on Chris Godwin, then you should be taking it.
I just don't want Odell. Odell, I don't want at all. Gallup, I don't mind, but you don't have to buy him now. Dobbins, we talked about. I don't want him. Godwin, I love.
Peyton wants to know 12 team, 1 QB, PPR, Pitts, CD Lamb, Boyd, or Higgins, Saquon, Kmet, and a top 4 23 first.
The Pitt side. Pretty easily, actually. It's not very close for me.
It's close for me, but I think I'm taking the Pitt side as well.
I'm not going to end up taking the Saquon side very often.
Interesting question from Brendan. Not sure. Let's dive in. Assuming no one has a crazy bad or good season, who would you expect the positions of the top 6 23 rookie draft to be? So, Ryan, I know you're really familiar with this 23 class, and you mentioned 6 or 7 that might even be better than Breece Hall. Who would that be?
Yeah, I think we've got 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Bijan Robinson is obviously the top guy right now. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are the quarterbacks. I'm much higher on CJ Stroud than Bryce Young. Young's a little undersized. I think, if we fast forward to March or April, there's going to be a lot of discussions about, is he big enough to be an NFL quarterback? We've kind of been through that before. I think we're going to go through it again with Bryce Young. Jahmyr Gibbs transferred to Alabama. He's the other running back that I really like. I actually think he's a lot closer to Bijan Robinson in my rankings or my value than consensus, I guess. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba, Keyshawn Butte are the wide receivers. Those are my top 6. But then even after that, you've got some very nice depth. I mean, guys like Zach Evans, Jordan Addison, another transfer. Those are guys who are going to be, at least as of right now, they look like mid-first rounders. And if they were somehow in this class, they'd be the 102, 103 range.
Yeah. I mean, this class was so weak at the essentially everything after Breece Hall. Like the next 5 picks were so weak. Like it was just such a weak group. It's fine after that. There's really nothing wrong with the late first beyond in this class. Nothing wrong with it. The second, it's not any different from any other year. But your group of, like, Garrett Wilson is okay. Drake London, same thing. Okay. But those should not be the wide receiver 1 in a rookie class.
Mark asked 12 team, Superflex start 10, half PPR, Swift plus a 23 second, or ETN and a 23 first.
Ooh. I mean, the Swift side is worth more, but
I think I would gamble. I would gamble on ETN in the first. That's a fun one though.
Spicy.
Yeah. Swift is the same age as ETN, basically, within a day or 2. They're both January 99, I think. We get the fact checker on that.
Randy's not a fan of Najee. Love you guys. Why doesn't anyone realize that Najee is the same type of player as Saquon? When playing with Eli, Saquon got 121 targets in his first 16 games, 139 targets in the 28 games since.
Yes, the difference between those 2 players is one of them's washed up and the other one's not. That's the only difference. One of them is totally washed up and is finished. The other one is still going just fine. So no, that's you. I do see what you're saying about Najee Harris, though, but it's not the same thing because Saquon Barkley was actually much better as a rookie than Najee Harris. Saquon Barkley was an efficient runner as a rookie. He was great. He was excellent, whereas Najee Harris was inefficient, volume-based, but the Steelers are going to hand him the same role again. I do see the concerns with Najee Harris. I don't mind getting out of Najee Harris right now, But Saquon Barkley is just the story of what might have been. That's all it is. I mean, it's what might have been. And what might have been, injuries happened, and then that player's gone. That happens in the NFL. People don't like it, but that happens. It happens that there's a bunch of injuries, and that player is not the same guy anymore. It sucks, but that happens all the time. You could go back in NFL history. There's zillions of players where that's happened. But Najee Harris is a different problem from Saquon. Najee Harris is inefficient, and that could be a concern if the volume ever goes away. So you have to hope that the Steelers keep feeding him, because he was not efficient as a rookie at all.
He wasn't, but there was another rookie running back in Pittsburgh who wasn't very efficient, who turned out to be pretty good, in Le'Veon Bell.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think that's the track that you could see here with Najee, Ryan, or do you think like Najee is more likely to take the Saquon route?
Well, I mean, the Saquon thing, as Tyler kind of hit on, and I'm not quite as out on Saquon as he is. I don't know if anybody is, but
nobody is.
Nobody.
Yeah, it's the injuries, right? I mean, that's really, and certainly the bad offensive line, the bad offense in general, the bad coaching staff. None of those things helped him. So I don't think we can project Najee Harris or anybody else to have those exact same type of issues. But the inefficiency, I do agree with. I mean, it was very volume based, and I mean, he's not a first rounder for me. He's a first rounder in every ADP month you want to look at, but he's not a top 12 player for me. He's not a top 3 running back for me. Probably, maybe not a top 5 running back. I would have to check my rankings to see where that lines up right now. But yeah, just not a player that I want at his current value. So yeah, I'm with I forgot who that was already, but I'm with him on that one.
Yeah, Randy.
I do think it's going to be Randy. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I do think it's going to be. It's not necessarily one of the things I have a good a good hold on right now as far as my expectations, but it's definitely one of the things I'm most interested to see this year is what that Steelers offense looks like post Ben Roethlisberger. What does it do to Najee Harris? What does it do to Deontay Johnson to get rid of this quarterback who everybody agrees was kind of bringing the offense down and limiting the offense over the past year or two?
Yeah. If Trubisky's in there, I mean, like, it's not like they didn't throw the ball in Chicago. I mean, he was part of offenses that threw the ball a decent amount. Not as much as the Steelers have with Ben, and that's going to be interesting to see if they turn the page on that. So, Najee is what, about the same age as Saquon, isn't he? I mean,
Najee is a year younger.
He's older than people think, though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tyler, 12-team Superflex, start 10, Javonte Williams or Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson.
Ooh. Okay. I'll take Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson.
Me too.
Yeah.
Good question, though.
Yeah.
Cam Marino chiming back in. Can Trubisky and CEH give me Zeke and Monty in a 12-team Superflex?
Well, not or Monty, no. I would love that. I would love that if Trubisky and CEH could get you Monty. Maybe it could get you Zeke. That doesn't even do me any good, though. I don't even know if I even want that. I might rather hang on to Trubisky and CEH and see if Trubisky starts some games, honestly.
Eric says if you can get Monty, I'm going to call
the Monty is good. Monty is underrated. People just don't like him for whatever reason.
Let's see. Deep sleepers, Keontae Ingram, okay. Danny Gray, Kyle Phillips, Danny Bellinger, Deshaun Corbin. Who's your favorite of that group, Ryan?
Ingram still. I mean, the Williams thing hurts, obviously, but still kind of interested in Keontae Ingram because to me, he's basically a James Conner clone. So if Conner goes down, I almost wonder if Ingram could kind of leapfrog Darrell Williams and one of those situations where Williams keeps the same role. And Ingram would be my guy. I don't think I have any of the others rostered at all.
You like Corbin, don't you, Tyler?
Sure, but these are listed in this list may have been pulled from my rankings because these are listed in the order that I have them ranked.
Who's the worst running back you or wide receiver you'd pay a 23 first for in Superflex?
Oh, that's fun. The worst one. Let me check here.
The thing
Well,
is,
I mean, the worst one by ADP is probably Elijah Moore, right? Like I already kind of professed my love for him. I think at one point this offseason I had him as ranked as the 11th or 12th overall player in single quarterback. So yeah, based on ADP, that's almost certainly who it would be.
It would be so hard for me to give up a first for a wide receiver. I think it's Deontay Johnson or Stephon Diggs.
So. By Apple Pie, 12-team Superflex ETN or Judy, 23 second, and Marcus Mariota.
ETN, I guess. Yeah.
I would go with, I think I'd take the package there.
Yeah, I think I'd go Judy on that. I don't know. I like ETN, but if I can get a wide receiver and a pick, I'll take that.
The whole other side is just whatever. ETN's the one thing that in this trade that has the potential to have like stud level value. So I'll take ETN.
Eric, he kind of likes the 24 class. It looks like similarly talented as 23. Yeah. You agree?
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, it's the same thing almost every year. You know, we've kind of forgotten that because this year's class has kind of felt like a downer, but
yeah,
it's always a matter of, the grass is greener on the other side. He named some names there: Caleb Williams, Travion, and Worthy, and Brock Bowers. I'm a little not quite as high on Brock Bowers, maybe as some, but Braylon Allen is the guy from the 24 class. I love the Wisconsin running back. Who had a great true freshman year last year. He did it for most of the season as a 17-year-old. I think he's actually younger than the top two incoming true freshman running backs. So yeah, I love Braylon Allen and obviously most of those guys there as well. But yeah, if you can't get those 23 first, maybe you pivot and start loading up on 24 instead.
Yeah.
There's
I do have
really
6. I have 6 23 firsts in Trade Addicts 8. I like that.
There's some amazing questions here. I'm going to cherry pick a little bit more, but hey, make sure you pay attention because Tyler has a Ask DLF follow up that he always does on the website. So
to be fair, though, I don't consistently remember which questions were answered. So sometimes I just pick the best questions to write about. So.
So just ask good questions. That's it.
That's right.
It's true. The questions that are I always pick at least one trade question to highlight the trade finder and the analyzer, and then I always the more general the question is, the more likely it is to end up in the article.
Without a tight end premium, Mark Andrews or Dallas Goedert and Pollard.
Oh, Andrews easily.
I think Andrews pretty easy.
This is a joke. Yeah.
Andrews for me too.
12-team Superflex, start 10, Swift, Jameson Williams, 24 first and a 23 third.
Swift.
Deontay Johnson in a 10-team league or Deontay Johnson and Treylon Burks or AJ Brown.
Asking. Ooh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Take Johnson and Burks, but it's close.
Well, yeah, it is close. I think that's what I'm taking as well. I still like Burks for the future, for the long term, despite kind of a rocky start to his career. But I mean, if you're talking about 2022, I think Deontay Johnson outscores AJ Brown, and then I get the guy I like for the long term. So yeah, I'll take Johnson and Burks here.
AJ Brown on my Scott Fishbowl team. So I hope that's not the case.
Sean says, with all the buzz for 23, it seems like I'm taking contending teams and trading out of contention, but I like the value. Any thoughts on that? It does seem like if most trades, the 23 first are the value that you like, yeah, you're going to end up trading yourself out of some potential championships here. Any worries for that, Ryan?
Yeah, there definitely could be. I mean, there's definitely concern for that. I think that happens a lot anyway. But this year, it's probably going to happen more than ever before. And if you look at kind of a typical 12-team league, maybe you have 3 strong contenders, 3 teams that are rebuilding, and everybody else in the middle. And I think it's going to be an arms race for teams either to tank, to trade away those assets that could win them games, to try to acquire 23 first. We know how hard that's going to be. So if you are that contending team that you really think you can, you've got a shot at the title, you might only be really contending with, 1 or 2 other teams.
It's true. But no, I've seen, I took apart my team, a couple of teams years ago, and started trading for 23 first. So yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that.
Really Truther, what's up? Appreciate you tuning in. Hey guys, great show as usual. In a 12-team Superflex PPR, do you see any of the 23 rookie QBs being drafted as a top 10 QB in startup this time next year?
23? Maybe. Probably.
Yeah, I would say probably. You think probably? I think probably not. I just think the depth of the quarterback position. What's happened over the past 2 or 3 years is that we've kind of had this churn at the quarterback position. And if you go back probably a year, maybe even just a year ago, like Ryan Tannehill was a low-end quarterback 1 a year ago or 18 months ago, something like that. And you could throw any old first-round rookie quarterback in, and CJ Stroud certainly would have been a top 12 guy at that point. But what happened is we got Lawrence and Lance and Fields and Mac Jones, and we got a handful of guys the year before that too, or a few guys before that came into the league with a ton of value, and now the position is suddenly deep. Even the veterans like Aaron Rodgers is quarterback 16, and there's Tannehill way down there in the 20s now. So I think the depth is such that Stroud, Young, anybody else that happens to break out probably are not top 12 guys immediately, and shouldn't be.
I can almost guarantee you though that I'll put them in as top 12 though, because I look at the quarterback position really, and I see the top 7 that I'm so confident are going to be there. And then after that, it's there's no guarantee. I can tell you that the odds that I rank a 35-year-old Matthew Stafford as a quarterback 1 or 0. So he won't be in there. He's quarterback 12 now. And I don't see Derek Carr, Tua, Mac Jones. Those are the ceiling cap. Are they going to grow? Doubt it. Aaron Rodgers is old. Kirk Cousins is old. They're not going to go up there. So there actually is room in the quarterback 1 range. I would expect that if CJ Stroud comes in and is picked number 1 overall, I think he could be 1 or 2, depending on what happens with Will Anderson. And, he goes to the landing spot won't really matter. If he has a good season, is picked number 1 overall, I expect to rank him as a quarterback 1 when he comes in.
23 second or DeAndre Hopkins?
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
23 second. I'm good on DeAndre Hopkins.
I think I'm going that way as well. It's either the pick or I would use that pick on a different trade.
Yeah, the mighty have really, really fallen. DeAndre Hopkins also, it's important to note that DeAndre Hopkins was bad. Is not good last year. Yep. He survived on touchdowns, which way over his career rate, way over. I think he had 8 touchdowns on way fewer targets. It was a very high touchdown rate, and there's no guarantee that that's going to repeat. But the targets were not there. He had 4.2 receptions per game. That is the lowest of his career since his rookie year by a lot. He hadn't been below 6 since 2016. So he wasn't, yards per game, 57.2. He hadn't even last 4 years. He hadn't been below 77. So he was a shell of the old DeAndre Hopkins last year, but he caught 8 touchdowns on 42 receptions. That's not going to happen again. That's not happening. 8 touchdowns on 42 receptions is not possible.
They're all going to Hollywood Brown from now on.
He didn't have 8 touchdowns the previous year on 160 targets. How is he going to have 8 on? Yeah. So DeAndre Hopkins is a hard fade for me.
Fournette or James Conner?
This is the same guy who asked the question earlier. This is the same guy who asked you the question. It's Fournette, like I said earlier.
Definitely.
I didn't change my answer in the last 7 hours. I'm not that fickle.
Fournette for me as well.
Yeah, Fournette.
AJ Brown or Deontay in 108? Burke.
We just answered this.
Yeah, I think we said that one.
Yeah.
Deontay.
Deontay and Burks.
Let's see. We're not going
So
to. That one's a little too vague. Henry Muto must start up. I got 223 first for pick 205. So that was pick 17. Traded 205 for 402 and a first. Okay. Yeah, there was a couple of details in there.
Yeah, I like this 205 for 402 and a first a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great
That
deal.
one I like. That of all these, that's by far my favorite.
We had Dan Marino earlier. We have Alex Smith now here.
Oh.
Also, 12 team super flex.
It's a little downgrade.
Yeah,
True, but I have but
no offense,
as like
Alex.
a person though, Alex Smith is one of those like that I always have a soft spot for because he came back from that injury.
Yeah,
just crazy to me.
Wants to know if this is a contending roster. It's a 12 team super flex, and he starts off saying he has Mahomes and Burrow. I think right there, yes. I mean,
Yeah, I think we're doing well. It's a good start.
Yep. And then looking at the rest, I mean, he's got some age here though. Keenan Allen, Mike Evans. He's got Devonta Smith, but then Juju, Ertz, Connor, CEH Patterson. Got some work to do, I think.
Running back could be better. I'd probably tear this team down to everything other than Mahomes and Burrow and just start over. Because this team is a little weak to me. I mean, it's got 2 wide receivers that I like. They're both aging. Nothing at Connors, one aging running back, nothing else. Tight end is just an aging. I would. You have already extra draft picks. I would just sell off. Sell off the older players and just kind of look to build you have Mahomes and Burrow. Like you're good at the one position that's irreplaceable. So build around them. This doesn't feel like a contender to me. Feels a little weak.
Yeah, I think I think it's a contender. I don't know if it's a title winner. In fact, I think everything would have to go right for it to be a title winner. You've got some picks that you could play with to acquire more help or depth. I don't know if I would want to do that with this team, though. I don't know if I would want to go that direction. I mean, my only problem with what Tyler said is, what are you getting? Most of these guys are not going to command much. Like I'm
Evans
not sure
is
you
still
can get
popular.
but can
We'll
you
count
even,
pull up.
like he's not even a
the trade
lock
finder.
to get a 23 first. He's not a lock to get a 23 first though. Like you've got to
True.
package these guys together to get a first.
So what I think you might have more luck with is could you trade? I mean, the ADP says you can do it. Can you trade Mike Evans for like Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore plus, or forget the plus? Can you? Because the ADP says you can. That's what I might try to do.
I was going to say, Ryan, would you trade a 23 first for Elijah Moore with this team?
With this team, yeah, I would.
I mean, you got the quarterbacks.
I said I would do that earlier. So yeah, I would trade a 23 first for Elijah. I don't know, I don't know if Elijah Moore is the difference between squeaking into the playoffs and winning a title on this team, though.
Right.
Yeah. I think this team is just not. This is not the team I'm trading away my extra 23 first to go behind.
No.
And I don't want to be in the middle. You don't want to be in the middle. So this would be a team where I'd rip it apart. But this would be a team I'd never have. I'm never going to get in. I'm not going to have Keenan Allen now. Keenan Allen would have been long gone.
Good question from Grimley here. 12 team super flex, Hollywood in a 23 first or Waddle in a 23 second.
Waddle's just worth more than that.
I'll take the Hollywood side here.
Interesting. Let's see. Look at the value of 23 seconds. How many players in next year's class do you feel really good about? What's the cutoff? So this year was an earlier cutoff. What about next year?
That's like a lot of speculation about because players come out of nowhere. I mean, there was a Joe Burrow. I mean, there's always going to be a Joe Burrow. There's someone like that. Someone who just came out of nowhere. So like I wouldn't think about it this way. I would think instead about okay, it is a generally deep class. 23 seconds are probably going to be something that you like. But this year, second round picks were not bad. This was not a.
I actually like the depth of this year's class.
There was nothing wrong with second round picks in this year's class.
To me, they're complete opposite classes. I really like the depth of this class. I mean, I found myself in the mid third grabbing players that I was kind of interested in.
Yeah, the
issue this year is
last year's.
The issue this year is we were missing the studs, and we've talked ourselves into Breece Hall. I know I have, but outside of that, it just wasn't top heavy. I mean, I was offered the 103 for my future first, and I turned it down without consideration, really.
It was
next year's class is
the quarterbacks. Usually, if you first in a super flex, you have access to some sort of quarterback who's going to help you. And this year, there's nothing. Yeah. Kenny Pickett.
So next year's class is super top heavy. I mean, I've already talked about the 6 studs that I like and that everybody likes, and then you've got nice depth behind that through, let's say, like 15 or 18. And then after that, we're going to get those guys, like Tyler said, that come out of nowhere, and it's going to end up being a deep class. And if you've loaded up on seconds or thirds because the first were impossible to get, I think you're going to be in a good spot, whether it's by picking those players or by making trades.
It's more that the firsts are going to, like, for right now, I have Breece Hall ranked at 24 in the Superflex tight end premium. I have Garrett Wilson ranked at 49. I think that there are going to be 8 players next year that are better than that 49. Garrett Wilson's my 102 at the moment, at 49. I think there are going to be 8 players in next year's class that are better than that 49. So the 108 next year is going to be better than the 102 was this year in Superflex. That's my opinion, for example. That's the thing that's different between the two classes, is the early to mid firsts outside of 101, which was still okay this year, are going to be a lot better. It's going to be more like 2020 and 2021, which had, in 2021, there were some drafts where you got Javonte Williams at 110. Whereas this year, 110 was what? I mean,
Sky Moore.
Yeah, Sky Moore, Christian Watson, or James Cook. Like, not so exciting.
And with that, I want to thank everybody that tuned in and here in the chat. I want to thank you guys for all of your questions and a bunch of them that we didn't get to, which make sure that you look out for Tyler's article. And hit us up on Twitter if we didn't get to your question. Appreciate you sending those in. Ryan, appreciate you joining us tonight. It's great to have a chance to chat with you. And I know everybody probably enjoyed being able to ask their questions to you. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Would be glad to get back on here anytime. Tyler,
great job as always. Any last words before we part?
No, I mean, I meant to do this at the beginning of the show. Next week, we'll have Addison. Addison will be back, and then the people demanded, and the people have received what they demanded. Addison will be on the show permanently. So the people are getting what they demanded. They demanded more Addison, and we will deliver weekly Addison on Ask DLF. So I'm very happy. I meant to announce that at the beginning of the show, but the end of the show is another good time. So I'm just very excited. And starting next week.
And that's the end of the show. Thank you.